ecology. In this video, scientists will be able to categorize the living and non-living components of an ecosystem. First, it's important to know that this video is going to cover a lot of vocabulary. Make sure that you are writing down each vocabulary word and its definitions. You'll also want to include examples and any other important information you hear during the video. In this video, we'll be going over the words ecology, habitat, biotic, abiotic, individual, population, community, and ecosystem. First, let's start with the word ecology. Ecology can be broken down into its two parts, eco meaning environment, and ology, which just means the study of. So the word ecology is the study of how living things interact with each other and their physical environment. Now you might notice that there is a note-taking symbol in the top of the screen. Anytime you see that symbol, make sure that you are getting the definition and the word, possibly some examples in your notebook. So we know that ecology is the study of living things and their environment. A big part of ecology is knowing about habitats. A habitat is an environment that provides an organism with what it needs to live, grow, and reproduce. Another way of saying that is a habitat is the place where an animal or a plant lives and the place that provides everything it needs to live, grow, and reproduce. A habitat includes the physical and the living factors of an environment. And we're going to go over both those terms in just a second. Some common habitats you've probably heard of would be oceans, forests, deserts, and grasslands. Those are all environments where organisms can live. When it comes to environments, we can categorize environments into two parts. We call them factors, the two factors of a habitat. The first factor are the abiotic factors. A means not, bio means life. So abiotic means the non-living parts of a habitat. Abiotic factors are the physical, non-living components that affect living organisms. This can include things like the amount of sunlight, how much water, what type of soil, the temperature, all the parts of an environment that are non-living but are important for organisms to live, grow, and reproduce. In addition, habitats have biotic factors. Again, bio means life, so the living factors. That might include things like the plants and animals, all the way down to things like bacteria. Biotic factors also include once living parts of a habitat. So let's put this to the test. Take a moment, pause the video, and see if you can identify some abiotic, non-living, and biotic, living, factors in this habitat. For the abiotic factors, maybe you identified the sun, the air, and the water. Those are all fantastic abiotic factors, the non-living parts. For the biotic factors, you might have seen the turtle, maybe the lily pad or the fern. And remember, biotic factors also include once living things. So the log is actually considered a biotic factor because it once was a living tree. Now, ecologists start with the biotic and abiotic factors of a habitat, but we can categorize things even more, and especially the organisms within that habitat. So next we're going to go over categories that we can put organisms into. The smallest category is the organism. The definition is the smallest level of organization in nature, which is just a single organism. So for example, a single parrotfish or a single snow leopard. From there, we move up to populations. A population are all of the members of a species that are similar and can mate in an area. Now, there's a couple important parts in there. A species is a type of animal or plant that can reproduce. Now, you'll notice there's also the statement at the end that a population has to be in an area where they can mate. So if you have two groups of animals separated by a mountain, well, then they're not going to form a population because they can't get across the mountain in order to mate. Those would be two separate populations. An example here would be a herd of elephants. That herd of elephants is all the same species, and they can mate. The next level up is a community. So within an environment, you can have a community of organisms. These are all of the populations that live together in an area, and here's the key, and they interact. So they possibly share food and shelter, or they might interact by one eating the other. An example here would be 20 lions, 10 elephants, and 50 zebra. All those different populations are interacting in the same habitat. The lions eat the zebra and the elephant share food. The biggest level of organization is an ecosystem. An ecosystem is the community of organisms that live in an area, so all the different populations, and the non-living surroundings. So it is all of the living and non-living parts of an environment. An example here might be all the fishes, so all the different types of fish, and corals. In addition to that, it would be the ocean water and sand. So if you have the fishes, the corals, the water, and the sand, the living parts and the non-living parts all together form an ecosystem. A graphical way to understand this is to start with the individual, so in this case, one fish. All of that species of fish within an area that can reproduce together would be called a population. That fish plus all the other fishes would form a community. In addition to the fish, you might see plants or the starfish. All of those living populations form a community. They're all interacting. And finally, when you include the non-living parts, the sand, the water, the sunlight, the temperature, then you see the community level of organization. Sometimes for scientists, it's helpful to look at the ecosystem level. How is the entire environment interacting together? Other times it's important to think about just the individual that's being affected. So here's your key ideas. Organisms need to interact with their habitats to survive and reproduce. Habitats are composed of biotic and abiotic factors. Ecosystems can be organized into levels of complexity, so least complex to most complex, from individuals all the way up to whole ecosystems.